Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So let me start today's video by sharing three very interesting facts with you. Fact number one is that flight tickets in India are more expensive than flight tickets in Singapore. Now, since I've lived in Singapore, I can personally vouch for this fact, but let me also show you some data. So this is the first data point, that the flight between Delhi and Hyderabad route, the kilometer distance is 1500 kilometers. Here, the average ticket price would be somewhere around 5,000 rupees. So this is point number one. Now compare this to between Bali and Singapore. The distance is 3000 kilometers, and here the average ticket price is somewhere between 6 to 9,000 rupees. So on per kilometer basis, Singapore is cheaper. That's A. Now of course, a lot of counter arguments can be given. Try to do this analysis independently on your own. Use Google, use different routes, and you will see that for a bunch of travel destinations, this holds true. That brings me to the second fact, that if you are in Goa and if you are looking to buy a Portuguese villa in Goa, in areas like Moira or in areas like Asagaon, then a Portuguese villa in Goa would cost you easily upwards of 5 crore rupee. But if you were to go and buy that same villa in Portugal, you will get it at almost like 30-40% cheaper. I have verified this. So again, you can go and check that out. So this is fact number two. In fact, in Portugal, they used to run a golden visa program also, within which they used to give you a golden visa also. Now, number three fact is that if you are buying an imported car in India, whether Ferrari and all that stuff, then you have to pay one of the highest taxes in the world, and it can go up to even 100% in India. So, if you're a rich person, you will be scratching your head, yaar, if I have to enjoy my life, travel by plane, buy a villa, or buy a Ferrari, or buy any expensive stuff, then I will have to spend crazy amount of money. Now, from that perspective, what has started to happen, unfortunately, in India is that people have started to leave India. So, a private report has come out, and the name of the report is Henley Private Wealth Migration Report. According to this, approximately 6,500 HNIs, high net worth individuals in India, are going to leave India in the year 2023. Now, this number was roughly 8,000 people in the year 2022. Now, China is the only country where this number is higher than that of India, and India stands at second podium in terms of HNI migration. The way HNIs have been defined is people who have approximately $1 million or roughly 8.2 crores of liquid wealth. Now, I am an HNI and I pay crores of taxes in India every single year. I speak about this topic with my friends, and normal उनका response होता है, पागल हो तुम, why are you staying in India? Why don't you come and settle in like Dubai? There is like 0% taxation. Now see, I have my own reasons of why I don't want to shift outside India. It is not set in stone, but at least as of now, I have no plans of settling outside India. But that's a more emotional decision, not a financial decision. So my perspective there is that my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all have been born and raised in India. Society has contributed to their growth. Whatever I am today, it's because of society's sacrifice also. So accordingly, according to me, the number one reason why I would not want to move out of India is very simple, that you know what, whatever taxes I'm filing, it should benefit the people of my country. So that is one of the reasons why I am not really interested in moving outside. That's a second key part is that see, I do not work with maximalist mentality. Yeah, tax भी बचा लेंगे, ये भी कर लेंगे, you know what, everything. No. So I feel that I have already made enough money. I am not bothered about doing all this jugaadpanti in order to make more money. So that is not something that I am interested in. So I thought that I'll make a video, and this is going to be a very interesting video about the topic, that if you are rich and if you are on the path to becoming rich, or if you ever wanted to become rich, then what are wealth trends that you should keep in mind? What are the actual reasons why rich Indians are shifting abroad? What is the dynamics of wealth, how it will play out in the next few decades in India? This becomes a very important topic to understand for you if you are someone who A, wants to build wealth, become an HNI, and second, once you have become an HNI, what is it, or what thought process financially should you kind of have? I will present all the facts and logic there. So from that perspective, I will explain you 5 simple points. Also, a very big shout out to our sponsors for today, which is Tax Buddy. It is an excellent tax saving platform. Tax filing season in India is well and truly underway. Thousands of taxpayers came forward to avail their massive 40% discount, which was valid until 31st of May. This discount has now been reduced to 35%. You're probably not thinking about filing your taxes until July, but I strongly encourage you to file taxes early. So file your taxes using the links in the description and comment box. So the first key trend that you should know about wealth in India is that India is going to build massive amount of wealth. Now, many people have been saying that, you know what, if you are a young Indian, you should stay in India. India is going to generate a lot of wealth. If you want to become rich, then you should definitely consider building a career in India. So what is merit to all that argument? So let me quickly break it down for you. So number one, is India going to become richer with time? The answer is 100% yes. What are the primary movers there? So there are three critical reasons. One is that a lot of our informal economy is getting formalized. So that money starts reflecting more and more into our formal GDP. Now imagine this, that if there is a fruit seller, now if he or she is only dealing in cash, now suddenly they have to convert all their business into white. Then what ends up happening is that that fruit seller is essentially keeping his or her money in a bank account. Now, when you're keeping your money in white in a bank account, it leads to something called as money multiplier, that the bank will further lend it out. And then that person is who has taken the loan from the bank. He or she is going to build a business and hire more people, give salary. Then those people who have taken a salary are going to go and spend money, vagera, vagera. So that leads to something called as money multiplier in economic terms. So that leads to a faster acceleration of GDP. So as the Indian economy goes from unorganized to organized, this trend is going to become more prominent, and this is already happening. So this is one. Second key point why India will grow is very simple, that our GDP growth rate is faster. We are an emerging economy, and compared to developed nations, compared to other fragile economies, our economy is more stable. It has demographic dividend going for it. It has a hungry workforce. Vagera, vagera, good things are happening. So from that perspective, the GDP growth in India is likely to be higher compared to its peers. This is the second point. Third and final, and the most important point, is that the growth of credit economy is going to be fairly high in India. Now, what is the point about credit growth? So credit growth simply means that, for example, if our parents, grandparents, if you go and ask them, loan won nahi lete the, they did not used to take any loans whatsoever. Loan lena was considered to be a paap in a way, right? And if you go and ask your parents, grandparents, many of them would be scared. They would not want that jig of taking loans. Nowadays, you have like 19-year-old kids getting loans after loans to buy like iPhone 13, iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro Max and whatnot. So loan taking has become mainstream. So what this leads to is excess consumerism, and as more and more people buy more and more stuff, there is more acceleration of the economy. And now you'll feel very happy ki yaar, maza hi aa gaya, right? I mean, we are going to become rich in real terms. Now, unfortunately, no, the answer is much more complicated than that. For understanding what type of wealth is getting generated in India, I will try to simplify it, and probably it will not give you the complete context, but at least it will help you think in a slightly different direction. See, the type of wealth that will be generated in India would be consumer-driven wealth, not innovation-driven wealth. Let me teach that example by talking about Apple products. So think about it this way, that Apple opened up a lot of stores. Tim Cook came and you know what, he danced around. He sold like a lot of Apple iPhones. Badi line lag gayi, vagera, vagera. All good things happened. But if you actually go and do a little bit of research, what exactly is happening here? Are Indians getting much better jobs because of Apple? Manufacturing mein hai, service sector mein maybe a few jobs are added, but those are very average in nature. Why am I saying average in nature? So I googled Apple jobs in India, and this is the list that I could get. Now, of course, this list can be extended, but what I'm trying to simply tell you is that, for example, if you go to US, then the type of Apple jobs or the type of jobs that Apple company gives to citizens there, those are elite jobs. For example, these would be like in product design and bunch of other high quality jobs. But Apple India, what type of jobs are we getting? Very few. But from a consumer market point of view, Apple understands that China and India are going to be major consumer markets. So Apple के phone बेच दो, products बेच दो, सब कुछ बेच दो India में and China में. Where do you think this money is eventually going to go, or who is going to benefit more through the sale of Apple products? Is it going to be like Indian citizens, or is it going to be like Americans, right? So they are going to repatriate a lot of this wealth that they are capturing out of India back to their nation. I am speaking pure sense, right? So I hope that we will not make this topic political. We will keep our discussion at an economic level. So this is an important point that you need to understand, that a lot of wealth that will be generated in India would be due to consumer spending, not because new innovative products are coming out of India which can compete against Apple, all that stuff. So this is point one that you need to clearly understand. Now, of course, I will get a lot of counter arguments. For example, recently HUL issued a statement that, you know what, there are 200 people in HUL India itself who are getting a salary of more than 1 crore rupee. Absolutely correct. But do you know how many employees does HUL have? So they have approximately 21,000 employees. And उसमें से 200 को 1 करोड़ से ऊपर की तनख्वाह मिल गई. So in percentage terms, how much is it? So to cut the long story short, the first key point that I'm trying to convey is that a lot of wealth will be created in India, but would that wealth benefit you? Yes, it will, but not to the extent that it will benefit other countries. That's part A. Part B is that if you are in the middle class and if you're trying to move to that HNI segment, then generating that wealth via jobs in India is going to be tough for you. I will repeat that statement, that if you are in the middle class, then generating that wealth and moving to that HNI segment for you will be tough through jobs in India. Now, why is that? I already explained it to you by using Apple's example. Similarly, if you study the data at an industry level, then how many management consulting jobs do we have? How many investment banking front-end jobs do we have? How many private equity VC fund jobs do we have, which are front-end? So the offices are very, very small compared to like developed countries. So if you are someone young, maybe in like your 20, early 30s, looking to move to that HNI segment, then chances of you becoming an HNI in India through jobs is going to be really, really tough, whether India overall grows in wealth perspective or not. So this is point one. I'm not saying that this situation will forever stay. Probably like it might change in another decade. I don't know. I can't comment on that. But as of now, this is what the situation is. Then you'll say, ki, chalo, theek hai baat, right? I mean, I would probably do some business, and I have seen Shark Tank culture. Ki, funding utha lo and you are able to become like millionaire the next day. Does that really happen? The short answer is no. And can Indians generate a lot of wealth by building businesses? So that's a very interesting perspective. So let me give you some commentary there. See, primarily there are two types of businesses. One would be physical heavy / debt heavy businesses. For example, factory pe factory, land acquisition kara, factory banai. And you know what? You are taking a lot of debt from banks. You are cultivating your businesses. You have a lot of connections. This is first type of physical infrastructure driven business through which wealth can be created. Second type of business is what? Second type of business would be probably digital, edtech, fintech, these type of businesses, startup building, right? So you are leveraging a lot of tech. Probably you don't require like a lot of physical infrastructure. Probably you are not taking debt. Probably you are going and taking financing from investor. That's not necessarily debt, but this is the second option that you might have, that you're building something digital, which is asset light. So this is the second categorization of business. Third would be small mom and pop shops, or you're building like small scale infrastructure, which is financed through your own money. Now, let me discuss each of these 3 points separately. See, if you are building very high debt driven businesses, you have excellent connections, bank wale aapko aaram se loan de rahe hain, you have access to a lot of credit. So all that stuff can help you in terms of building your business in India. No doubt about that. Because why? Because as I earlier said, that credit economy in India is picking up. So if you can benefit from taking that credit, you will benefit. You are on your way to becoming an HNI, or you probably are already an HNI. Only then you might be getting very sasta loans. Number two, if you are building asset light businesses, then can you become an HNI in India? The answer is yes. There is a lot of domestic demand. So if you are building some kind of product for the Indian consumers, you are in the Indian market, you understand the nerves of Indian customers, then it's great, right? And so a prime example or a type of an example here would be Tax Buddy. The Tax Buddy has a very small team, right? But they are able to leverage that entire digital connect, and without investing too much money in infrastructure, they are able to scale their company quite a lot. So same applies to my company that I run, Wisdom Hatch. It's a small company, very small, light infrastructure, mostly digital. So from that perspective, again, right, if I run the company well, we will make a lot of money. So from that perspective, there are opportunities to run these type of businesses and grow really big in India. In fact, most of the businesses through which I have made money, a lot of it brings foreign revenues to India. For example, I used to run my MBA journey, and almost 30% of my clients were outside India. So I used to bring a lot of foreign wealth to India. So that was not a domestic consumption driven business. So it was an export of services type of a business. So these type of businesses actually make India quite rich, because you are actually bringing a lot of American money into India, and that money actually stays in India. Now, in order to build these asset light businesses, you have to face a lot of competition, because in India, the demography is very, very competitive. Most of us are young and we are competing for very limited spots. For example, you would have often heard कि UPSC में, IIT में, there is so much competition. Now, same thing is happening in digital space. For example, how many course websites you are going to make, how many YouTube channels are you going to make, वगैरह वगैरह. So competition has become like crazy in terms of building digital businesses, especially after this Shark Tank revolution. So building wealth for majority of us is going to be really difficult. But yes, if you are someone who can just graze past the competition, and if you can do exceptionally well, if you become exceptional, then automatically you will become an HNI by using this route. Now, third option is to run a mom and pop shop or run some kind of small physical establishment oriented businesses. But scaling that up and making a lot of money or becoming an HNI via that is really, really tough. Then comes the third and final path through which you can become an HNI. So that is called as investment route, right? So for example, if you have already created good amount of wealth, you invest your money properly, then you can potentially become HNI someday. But unfortunately in India, what is happening is that, for example, debt mutual fund, I keep on talking about it, that indexation benefits for debt mutual funds have been withdrawn. Real estate investing has been made really tough. Bunch of other taxation related things are there. I've already made videos, so I will not belabor this point. But three routes that I have discussed, that number one, in terms of jobs, becoming an HNI in India is really tough. You are much better off going abroad and then becoming an HNI, so to say. Number two, in terms of business, your best option would be to do something digital oriented businesses to become an HNI. You can do it, but you have to face a lot of competition. Your third option of becoming an HNI is probably investment oriented, but that option has been curtailed to a very large extent. अब आप अपना पैसे ही बचा लो, right? You are just able to somehow match inflation in terms of your return if you are making 12-15%. Now that's unofficial inflation according to my analysis. Again, please go back to the example I was explaining about flight tickets. Please tell me that in the last 3 years, how much do you think flight inflation has happened in India? That will give you an idea that inflation works very, very differently from what the quoted data says, so to say. So if you do this analysis, then it would somehow give you a sense as to how to become an HNI in India as per the available trends. So this is the first core topic that I wanted to cover. So now comes the second key trend, that the wealth gap in India is going to rise with time. Now this is not an India specific issue, this is a world specific issue. So let me show you some data first, and this is the data that you can look at, and I will look at it with you. So for example, you can see that the top 1% controlled almost 13% wealth back in 1961. Now they control 21.7%. And if you take a look at top 10%, then you will categorically see that top 10% wealth has gone up quite dramatically, top 1% wealth has gone up dramatically, but bottom 50% has been going lower and lower. Why is this happening in the world? I had already explained, done a separate video on that, but very quick explanation there. This is happening for three reasons. One is that access to credit. I had already spoken the point that for rich people, it is much easier to take debt. Once they take debt, they can use that to grow more businesses, create a kind of a discretionary income, then create third business, take debt for that also, vagera vagera. So all that can be done. So access to credit for the rich is much more easier compared to access for credit for the poor. So this is reason one. Reason two is that value capturing by using tech has become much easier. This is in relation to what I was explaining earlier, that for example, consider the case of Instagram. I love to give this example that Instagram was a 10% company, got sold for like $1 billion. So by using 10 people team, you were able to build a business that was worth $1 billion. Same goes for something like Canva, again, like more than multi-billion-dollar valuation, very small team. So using tech, value capture has become easier. So it might happen that in India, $3 trillion of new wealth is created, but that $3 trillion of new wealth, whom it would be captured by? It would be captured by people who are innovating, and most of that wealth would be captured by them. So therefore, this income inequality chart that I'm presenting, it will get more and more skewed with time. So this is again not a political debate, but more of an economic trend that is picking up. Now, third key reason is the incidence of tax reason. So incidence of tax reason simply means that what is the tax fairness, so to say. That for example, if you're charging rich only 20%, but if you're charging middle class de facto 25% taxes, so does it make sense? Because for every 100 rupees that is getting collected as tax, what is the fair share of every population segment for it? Now that's a highly debatable issue. I've done a separate video. It's a very complicated issue, so I'll not be able to explain it on this video, but in case you are interested, you can check here. Short summary there is that the middle class going forward will continue to pay higher and higher taxes. A lot of people will fall from middle class to lower middle class rather than rise from middle class to upper middle class or rich class, right? So this is a point that you need to remember and ponder upon. The third key trend that is going to get stronger in India is that monopoly business are going to corner more and more and more and more and more wealth. This is something that I explain on point 1 and 2, but I will present a very quick case study here. This is about a salesman story and the entire sales network of one of the affiliate running type of a program that person used to own a team of a few distributors and they used to sell some product. But unfortunately, right, some big businessmen came in India, wiped out the entire network. So this type of stuff and this monopoly building is happening in almost everything, right from telecom, right from airport construction, right from construction companies, right from owning digital wallets, right from owning sports team, right from owning kirana stores. The point is that all these spaces are getting extremely monopolized. Imagine what is going to happen in another 20 years, that a lot of unorganized sector, for example, small mom and pop shops, they will be weak. Similarly, if you're an individual plumber, electrician, then you will have to go and list on some online platform, right? And that platform is going to take a cut. So this platform based model is going to make a lot of individuals rich, but it is going to make entire communities of professionals poor. A classic case in point is the Ola Uber story. You might be reading about like such negative feedback, you know, Ola Uber book करते हैं, ride cancel करके भाग जाते हैं, वगैरह वगैरह. Do you really think that that is driver's fault? Why would a person who is actually making good amount of money, if he or she were right now benefiting massively from Ola Uber, why would they not pick you up and give you a ride? Probably because they are not getting any sensible ROI anymore. So all these platform-based business that initially सब कुछ free कर देंगे and you know drivers are going to make crazy amount of money. You get a lot of drivers. Then as your customer base grows, then you start eating into the profits of drivers. Thinking कि यार वो कुछ करेंगे नहीं, they are not going to do anything. So all this platforming of different businesses is actually going to kill a lot of individual professions. It is a sad story, but this is how it is. You can call it tech, you can call it whatever you like. This is the reality. This is the economic reality. We live in a world where small fish is eaten by big fish, and that trend is only going to accelerate. Now, whether I like it, whether I support it, whether I don't support it, what is the debate between socialism and capitalism, all those points are moot. I think this is a trend that is anyways going to play out. So this is a trend that you should remember. If you are trying to build your own business, then try to figure out something innovative where you have some kind of edge where you can compete. If you are going to go head on with the big guys, you'll get crushed. So that is the reality, and that is a reality and wealth trend that you need to understand. Now then comes the fourth point, that a lot of investment wealth is going to move out of India. Earlier I gave the example that from a taxation perspective, debt mutual fund, real estate are becoming less effective. But there are certain other changes that are happening in the economy. So first, critical point that you need to think from a world economic perspective is that, see, India as a real estate market is very expensive compared to many other parts of the world. I'm not saying that India is the most expensive market, but we will fall in that expensive side because our population density is very high. Other parts of the world, you can buy property much cheaper even in developed countries. So this is point one. Point two, regarding real estate, a good thing that the government is trying to do is that they are trying to push the white money in real estate, which is a very good step. But what it inadvertently does is that, see, for example, if you own a land of let's say 5 CR, right, and you are an HNI, you sell that, and if you are somehow getting entire money in white, then are you going to reinvest and buy a new property in India? The chances might be low. You get the option of repatriating that white money outside India. But if the money was black, then you have no other option but to put that money in India. So that's the side effect of white economy in real estate. So as more and more real estate becomes white, this trend is going to accelerate more aggressively. Now on top of this, if you think about it from an investment wealth perspective, one key trend that is happening in the economy is the concept of volatility. Volatility means that one year you make 10% return, another year you make 15% return, then suddenly there is a 30% loss, then suddenly there is a 5% loss. So what is happening? There are a lot of spikes, right? Some years you're making a lot of money, some years you are losing a lot of money. Now, as the world becomes more debt oriented, this volatility goes high. So this is a concept that I had explained earlier also, that the world is becoming more and more volatile with time. What it does is that it actually pushes people, and especially the rich people who want to have a lot of safe investing options, to move to developed countries or to move their money in countries where there is more stability, so to say, from an investment return viewpoint. So from that perspective, a lot of investment wealth for HNIs is going to move outside India, and that is one of the prime reasons why a lot of HNIs are moving outside India also. Tax laws bhi hain, bahut sari other problems are also there which you keep on reading, but I am trying to add a fresher perspective to this entire topic. Now the final wealth trend in India would be that rich would move a lot of their money in order to hedge their sovereign risk. So what is the meaning of sovereign risk? Sovereign risk simply means that, for example, if you are an ultra HNI, you have 100 crores of money lying in your bank account. Are you going to keep that entire money in one basket called as India? The short answer probably would be no. Financially, it would not be prudent. So probably you will move some bit of money to some other country, or you would want to put a lot of money in a safer economy. So from that perspective, what is going to happen is that rich will make the decision of leaving an emerging economy as it becomes rich. So this is the simple point. These are the simple trends. What does all this mean to you? So I will present a very quick 4-point summary as to how all this impacts you. Number one impact on you would be that the middle class is going to pick up the slack that is created by the rich class, because as they move, their money also moves with them. But someone has to keep feeding the tax machine. So from that perspective, middle class taxes are de facto going to go up. I have made enough videos on that. And therefore, I keep saying that majority of the middle class is likely to fall in the lower segment rather than rise up as India's wealth explode. Number 2 point is that as more and more people become rich, they will always question that same thing that my friends say, yaar Dubai kyun nahi settle ho jate, there is like 0% taxation, वगैरह वगैरह. So rich will always debate that if I'm sitting in India, more expensive house I have to buy, more expensive car I have to buy, more expensive airfare I have to buy. So if we understand the spending pattern of that rich segment, especially for people who are digitally free, so to say, and who can work literally from any part of the world, they have no physical infrastructure in India. There are very limited reasons for them. The reasons could only be emotional from that perspective. Due to emotional reasons, they might stick, but many of them would move outside India because of the fact that the expenses, at least in that rich segment, is fairly high in India already. Third key point, that becoming millionaire opportunities in India is going to be very, very high, no doubt about that. But in order to become a millionaire, you need to be exceptional. You must be reading कि यार हमारा course ले लो, you become a millionaire, and you know what, every month you will start earning like 1 crore rupee. It is not that easy to make money. It is really, really tough to make money. It's a very simple equation that if 1,000 people are running a race, if you're not in that top 1%, you're not going to make money. No course is going to teach you how to be exceptional. You have to figure that out yourself. Fourth and finally, I'm hopeful that all of you learn from me. You are already picking up a lot of strategies, are making very interesting investment moves, business development moves, वगैरह moves. So hopefully you'll be able to create a lot of wealth. So from that perspective, final point would be that as you become rich, diversification as a strategy makes sense. I am not doing it as of now. I am an exception there, but rationally speaking, that's a sensible move to diversify your wealth as you become an HNI. So these are important points that I wanted to highlight. In case you are interested why the middle class is paying more and more taxes, please consider checking this video. It will give you more clarity on some of the topics that I discussed today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.